My dear viewers, uh, there was demand from different quarters, uh, especially from the south, one of my students, and from other quarters also, to explain the poem Honest Blindness by John Milton. So today I have decided to make a video on this. Now, this is the poem On His Blindness by John Milton. This most probably he wrote in 1652 when he lost his eyesight. And we know that he is the writer of the great epic Paradise Lost. And all his life he devoted himself to praise God and do his work. So here he expresses his anguish first, his doubt, the problem in the first quatrain of this sonnet, which is an Petrarchan sonnet. Sonnet, you know, is a 14-line poem which has first 8 lines. Now, Petrarchan sonnet has the rhyme scheme ABBA for the first quatrain, ABBA for the second quatrain, and CDE for the sestet, which are the last 6 lines of the poem. This poem is very famous, and often the boards do keep it in their syllabi at any level, at class +2 level, class 12 or 11, or even in graduation. So I'm not going into the biography of the poet, but straight away I'm going into its explanation. Now, first I'll read out the whole poem to you. Then I'll explain it. When I consider how my life is spent, here half my days in this dark world in white, and that one talent which is dead to hide, lost with me useless, though my soul was bent, to serve there with my Maker and present my true account, lest he returning chide, that God exact their labor, light denied. I fondly ask, but patience to prevent that marvel soon replies. God doth not need either man's work or his own gifts. Who best bear his mild yoke? They serve him best. His state is kingly, thousands at his bidding speed, and posted over lands, ocean without rest. They also serve who only stand and wait. Now, this is a spiritual poem so far as Milton is concerned. It's an echo of his heart, of his soul. He was eager to eulogize God's manifestation in this world. And by losing his sight in the 50s, when we see that it's a middle-aged person, so he's saying half days, half is at the middle age of his time. So when I consider how my life is spent, that means when Milton thinks, he considers, he weighs the positives and the negatives. How my light is spent. Now here light. Light we can refer to his eyesight, as well as we can refer to the divine light, which makes him a great poet, which has offered him poetic capability to compose poems in praise of God. In both ways, he finds himself helpless, desperate, and he questions God, why this happened to me? Why he has become blind at that age when he was engaged in praising God and doing his service. Era half my days in this dark world and white. Era before half my days. That means in middle age. This dark world and white. Now notice here the way how he uses the adjectives dark and white. It's a peculiar way of using these adjectives, one before the noun and one after the noun. And see what class it is. The music of the words, this dark world and white, da 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 da, this alliteration, a figure of speech, you can say. So notice the beauty of these lines. And that one talent. Now, when he says that one talent, he's very emphatic about it. He's particular about it. He's not talking about two or many multifaceted personality he has. He thinks that God gave him this talent of composing poems in praise of God just to serve him. And that was the best service he could render. So, and that one talent which is that to hide. In Old Testament, in the book of Matthews, chapter 15, verse 14 to 30, there's a parable in which a master calls his servants and entrusts them with his property. And he gives them 5, 2, and 3 coins or talents, and says that when he returns, he'll take the account. When he returns, he calls them again and asks them to give their account. The first one, who got 5, he doubled the amount. Second one also. But the third one said that he has buried it somewhere. He'll just go and just take it out. So he punishes him. He takes away that one that he had and gives it to them, though, who have already doubled. And God says, those who don't have, I'll take what they have. And those who have will be given more. Now here, he punishes the third one. That means not to use one's talent in God's service is a sin or is wrong, and it demands punishment. And at one hand, you say Bible, wages of sin is death. That means if you sin, it calls for death. Now, see how Milton says that it is death to hide. He doesn't say it is sin to hide. He says directly that it is death to hide. As you know, sin is equal to death. Wages of sin is death. So here he says, and that one talent which is death to hide, which is death to hide. Directly he's saying that to hide one's talent, not to use in the praise of God or in the work of God, doing God's, fulfilling God's wish or will, that is death, equal to death. So it requires or demands punishment. Then that one talent which is death to hide. Lodged with me, useless, though my soul more bent. Lodged with him. So now here is, he knows that he has abilities to compose poems in praise of God in his service. But just because he has lost his eyesight, he is rendered helpless. He cannot do so. He is unable to do that anymore. Or that's an obstacle for him to, as Milton thinks, that he has been obstructed from serving God. So here, though my soul more bent, that means he's too eager, he's very eager to serve God. He does not want to fail in his duty towards God. It's a sin to fail in his duty towards God. So that in that sense, he considers himself a sinner and worries whether when the day of judgment comes, what will happen? How will he give his account? Just like in that parable, that third servant had to give, and he was punished. So he says, to serve there with my Maker and present my true account, lest he returning child. To serve my Maker, to serve, to give my account to my God, and present my true account, lest he returning child. Child, scold. He'll punish me, scold me. So he's worried about the day of judgment. And he says, doth God exact their labor, night denied? I fondly ask, but patience to prevent. That one was who replies. Doth God exact their labor? He says, does not God uh, exact, you can say, minus or take away from me my rightful right? Wages, you know, when a laborer works throughout the day and gets his payment, his wages at the end of the day, and he has no guarantee for further work. He's not a regular worker. Then only you'll get your daily wages, not monthly income, not annual income, but daily wages. So God has asked everyone to earn his own bread and to use the endowments or the talents given by God, endowed by God, in the service of God. So here he finds some problem and doubt. So he questions himself that how will I present my true account to God? Because my talent is lost with me. It's just lying, not used, useless. Lest he returning child, doth God exact my day labor, light denied? At the one end, he's taken away my eyes. Has he not uh, stopped me from serving him? I fondly ask, but patience to prevent. I fondly ask. Now, here, one connotation is I foolishly ask. Here he realizes. One is fondly, that means just because he can converse with God as a friend, philosopher, and guide in his praise. So he says that I fondly ask, but patience. Now, patience is here personified. Patience is replying. That means patience is personified. From this half line, the eighth half line, there's a turn in the thought. So far, he had expressed the problem, the regret, the questioning, and now he tells us the resolution. He enters the resolution in this line. But patience to prevent that murmur. Now remember this word murmur. The Israelites murmured for lack of water to Moses. And Moses got angry and he struck the rod with this a bit hard, the rock. Though water flowed, but that was a mistake. He got angry. For that he was punished. He was punished for what? He was not allowed to enter the chosen land. Now, here also, he thinks, Milton thinks, that to prevent that murmur, complain. He had complained so long in the octave. He has complained against God and he's fighting his case that uh, this should not have been done. That means his light should not have been taken away from him. So, to prevent that murmur, soon replies, now he is awakened within. And God's grace showers on him. And he realizes the Almighty God's will, the power of his will, and his perfectness. He says, God doth not need either man's work or his own gifts. Who best bear his mild yoke, they serve him best. So he says that God is self-sufficient. He does not need anyone's help. He is complete. He's, in Hindi I will use a word called Paripurnanand. And for the students of chemistry, you can say he was that's like inert gases, 8 electrons in outermost orbit that do not react, no valency at all, no demand from anywhere, and he is self-satisfied within himself. God is almighty, all present, omnipresent and omniscient, and he knows best than we do. We are his children. After all, he knows better than us what we need. So, God doth not need either man's work or his own gifts. And whatever we serve him, we serve with the gift of God only, what God has given us. Whatever power we have, suppose we see, we hear, we eat and digest, what all we do, whatever power we have, our mental power we have, that is all God's given. That is why word lines God says, let there be no power but that be ordained of God. And whosoever resisteth the power of God shall be condemned. That means all our faculties are given or endowed to us by God. It's His property, God's property. And using them for God's praise, for God's uh, service, we are doing nothing from our own. So, he says, God doth not need either man's work or his own gifts. Who best bear his mild yoke? Now, yoke, that is a harness which you put on an oxen. And in the Bible, we get a reference uh, which is, you know, in Matthew's 11, lines 29 to 30. Come to me, all you are weary and burdened. I will give you rest. Take my yoke upon you and learn from me, and you will find rest for your souls. This is an, you can say, an image of God's will. So he wants us to take his yoke. That means to carry on his work, his will. And we are not entitled to complain against it. So he says, bear his mild yoke, they serve him best. His state is kingly. Now he's saying, many angels were thrown out of heaven with Satan, but still 2/3 of them are with God. Only 1/3 was thrown out. So he says, thousands at his bidding speed, at his one bid, thousands of angels are ready to serve him. He needs no help from a trivial person like me. This is what Milton is saying. And posted over land and ocean without rest. He is omnipresent. He is omnipresent. He is present everywhere. Wherever he wants to do anything, he can. He is so powerful. They also serve who only stand and wait. This is complete submission of Milton. And this is the resolution. For all God-fearing people, all religious people, all pious people, they just should have that forbearance like that of Job, who suffered throughout so much of suffering, still he did not complain. Whatever he does for us is for our good. That's the lesson. There should be complete submission and no complaint from God. So now I can talk much more on this topic, but the time is limit for the video. I'll just go into the rhyme scheme and tell you that this is the first 8 line, the quatrain, the first 4 lines quatrain, the second quatrain form the octave, and the rhyming scheme is A B B A A B B A, and then in the 8th line, half of the 8th line, where you find but patience to prevent. From there, the mood of the poet changes, and the poem goes towards its resolution. Is the sestet. Now these 3 lines, C D E, C D E. So this is the explanation that I can offer. Whether if you see, there are many key words you can see over here. In the first line, light, then talent, then lodged, soul, then true account, exact, fondly, patience, and whatnot. It's a sublime poem which really inspires a religious person. Those who have liked this explanation, they should like, share, subscribe, and comment.